Hello, welcome everyone who has joined us. This is Ukraine Media Center in Ukrinform. Right now we have with us Andriy Demchenko, the spokesperson of the State Bodyguard Service of Ukraine. We'll be discussing the situation at the state borders. Hello. It's the 104th day of a selfless defense of Ukrainians against the Russian aggression. The State Bodyguard Service is continuing to perform its tasks in terms of defense of the Ukrainian country. The enemy is using fire against the Ukrainian troops and is trying to strengthen its activities. In Kharkiv, Luhansk, and Donetsk regions, the positions are under constant fire of the aggressor. The Ukrainian defenders are doing their best to protect the country from the occupier. The UAVs are successfully used, among other things, to support artillery. And for instance, recently, the positions of enemy infantry were discovered by the State Bodyguard Service of Ukraine near Severodonetsk, and later this information was used by the artillery. Also in Kharkiv region, the enemy intends to hold Ukrainian troops. Near Belarus, there are no considerable changes, and the neighboring country is still strengthening the borders with Ukraine, and there are still threats of aircraft and missile attacks from that region. Near Moldova, we do not observe any considerable changes. Last week, Sergei Daineko, the head of the Bodyguard Service of Ukraine, has personally visited the region, spoke to our servicemen and also other servicemen of other units, and made sure that the necessary actions are taken in order to protect the Ukrainian national border. At the borders with Belarus and the border with Moldova near Transnistria, all the necessary measures are taken by the State Bodyguard Service and the Security Service of Ukraine in order to protect the border. On top of that, Russia continues to keep along the border of Chernihiv and Sumy regions the units of their armed forces in order to make sure they are present, and also to make sure that some of the Ukrainian troops have to be present there. There are about 3 battalion tactical groups, but still we are not observing the enemy amassing forces to once again invade Ukraine from there. Also in Chernihiv and Sumy, the enemy is still shelling the borderline communities, and this is exemplified by what has done today at 5 a.m. near the community of Zernova. The shelling resulted in the destruction of one of the communities in Sumy region. So such shelling and also the use of missiles and short arms is used daily. Also, UAVs are used to drop explosives and also to collect intelligence data. Over the last 6 days, there were over 70 cases of shelling of those territories, over 50 of them from the artillery systems, the rest of them the short arms and also missiles. As for the borders with functioning border crossing points, the numbers of people crossing are between 80 and 85,000 people crossing both days. There are no lines of those waiting to leave Ukraine. There are almost no queues, and we can hear the same from the bodyguard services of the neighboring countries. Since February 24, since the beginning of this full-scale invasion, 8.7 million people have crossed the border in both directions. 5.4 of them were the ones living in Ukraine, and this was the number of the citizens of Ukraine. The highest numbers of people are crossing the border with Poland, and right now the number of people entering Ukraine is higher than the ones leaving, which shows the intention of Ukrainian people to come back to Ukraine, because the majority of such people are the citizens of Ukraine. Unfortunately, there are still many attempts to cross the border illegally, mainly by men who are aged from 18 to 60 years of age. So since February 24, we have apprehended 3,250 such persons. Also, many people are attempting to use fake documents to cross the border. There were 900 of such persons. Also, the entire schemes are being discovered intending to assist such people to cross the border illegally. In Lviv region, the bodyguard service has recently discovered such a scheme together with the police and the prosecutor's office. So the pretext there is that the men are crossing the border are drivers, and the intention is for them to be working as the drivers. So such services cost about 20,000 hryvnias. Also, there are latent attempts to cross the border. You may recall the case when a man was hidden in a baby box. There were cases of men dressed as women, and recently there was a case when a young man was hidden in a Ukrainian bus traveling from Zakarpattia to a neighboring country. Any questions, dear colleagues? Can you please share about the Russian journalist Ovsyannikova, who currently works in Germany? What was the basis for her to cross the border, and where did she come from? The access to the information about crossing the border by the third persons. Not everyone has access to this data, so to confirm or disprove the fact of her crossing the border is impossible for me right now. So all the border crossing by the Ukrainian military is happening in full accordance with the law, both Ukrainian and international. Speaking of the citizens of the aggressor country, there are high-intensity activities to check their data. There are no other questions. Thank you. So this was Andriy Demchenko, the spokesperson of the State Bodyguard Service of Ukraine. Thank you.